Coming from an office that had a maximum of seven dogs present at one moment, I'd like to tell you a story about me and my passion for baking cakes. I often bake cakes. Sometimes I do it alone. Sometimes I do it with my wife. What strikes me when I do it with my wife that we often get into little arguments about how the decoration should look like, what the fruit should be put into the filling, and so on. The result is usually really nice, but it always takes more time than we expected. So, who in the audience knows how to bake a cake? Please raise your arms. Okay, quite a few. So, how long does it take to bake a cake? What would you say? An hour and a half? Anyone else? Very good question. First thing to ask is, what kind of cake are we baking? This cake, for example, hour and a half. This cake, for example, 4 hours. This cake, these two are actually our dogs, and Tristan is our son, 10 hours. And the same occasion, next year, second birthday, same, very similar cake, only 5 hours. So process improvement and stuff. So I imagine that many of you in here are information workers. By information workers, I mean people who manage information from one form to the other, or do something similar as the main thing they do for a living. Information workers have complex work. Why is it complex? It is very prone to changes. For example, a new requirement or new information changes all previous information and so on. And dealing with information also deals with relationships, because we have a relationship with our coworkers, with our bosses, with our families, and so on. So many of us run to projects as the form that is going to solve our problems. Projects are time-boxed, projects are very easy to charge by, projects have clear goals, and so on. But as many of you may know, I also have experience with failing projects, projects that are over time, over budget, or don't deliver things in a way that the client expected us to deliver. So I was looking for a solution for that in like 2006 and discovered a thing called Agile. Agile is actually a set of development methodologies for developing software, and also in the automotive industry, it was present a lot of times. But I'm not here to talk about development practices. I'm going to talk about what the values of Agile are and what can we take out of Agile to our daily lives. The first critical thing out of three is planning. Planning is crucial to any project. It's very important to plan what is going to be done, but it's far more important to plan how these things are going to be done. Planning should include everyone. By everyone, I mean really everyone. Your clients, maybe your boss, everyone on the team, even the person who's just going to do one little thing, everyone. Why everyone? Because only if everyone is present, you're going to be able to understand the whole scope of the work that is going to be done. You're going to be able to understand every little task inside this project or time frame that you're planning for. The second thing that is very important is you need to share. If you have specialists on your team, like people who are the only ones in your company that know some certain thing, make sure that they share stuff with you, that they share what is it that makes them the specialist, make them share or make them leave. This is really important, because if you don't share, you're just adding risk to the project. Ask stupid questions. A lot of times in new teams or new projects, people are afraid to ask the stupid questions. But on the other hand, the answers to the stupid questions are often the most critical one. So if nobody else asks the stupid questions, you be the one who asks it. For example, what is the cake made out of? Or something like that. If you have big chunks of work, like something that you foresee is going to take your team or 2 members of your team or you and or somebody else or just you more than 1 or 2 days, disassemble this. Put it to pieces. Make sure that you know how the thing is going to be built or get done within this task. Make sure that the biggest task on your to-do list is no longer than 1 day for 1 person. And probably the most important thing is define while planning what it means that something is done. The definition of done is something that is missing in many of companies that I've been to or worked at and so on. Decide together with your boss, together with your clients, what it means to be done. If I go back to the example of the cake, a cake for somebody is done, for myself, for example, is done when I put the sponge, cut it over, put in the filling, and put another sponge on top. The cake is eatable, cake is good, it's done. For my wife, it takes a bit more. She wants the decoration, she wants the figures, she wants everything. For example, for a professional cake maker, the cake is done when it is safely delivered to the client, to the party. So make sure you all have the same definition of what it means done. Then once you have all that done, write it down, draw it, stick it on the board, make sure you won't forget it. The second thing of Agile is the importance of prioritization. Make sure that everybody on the team, the same team that did the planning, understands and knows the big picture. Make sure everybody knows why you are doing this, why you are requesting this. Also make sure that everybody is seeing the whole picture, so no little piece is missing. When you have those two out, make sure that people can fight for their ideas. If somebody is really passionate to get their idea or their task really up the priority list, usually this person has a very good reason for that. So let people fight over what is important and what is not important. Okay, so now the difficult part. All projects or all work actually is constrained by 3 main things: time, money, and resources, as in how much people we have to do the thing. Play with limiting or holding down or fixing one of those constraints. For example, if you have a deadline in a month, play with the fact or simulate how the project is going to run if you hold down the time element. So for example, you say, we must finish this in 14 days. How are we going to do this? Or let's say, we only have 2 people left on the team. Everybody else is sick. What can we do in the next 14 days? So play, simulate how constraints affect your project. And the last thing, do. You have to actually do the work that you planned. First, unschedule. Unscheduling is a simple process. You just take your schedule, like Claudia does, and fill it up with all the things that you will be doing that day but are not work. Once you do that, you often find out that you only have 4 or 3 hours left to really work, even if you're employed for 8 hours. Second thing, when you start working or before you start working, kill all distractions. It's best to just take the cord for the internet out of your computer, shut down Skype, shut down Twitter, shut down Facebook, and all the things. Even if your computer has lots of memory, have only the one application that you're working with open. Second thing, defragment. By defragment, I mean get the number of projects that you're involved with in to as low as possible, preferably 1. If you have 2 or 3 projects going on simultaneously and you have to multitask, switching from one to another actually takes more time than you'll be actually spending doing the stuff you need to do. So switching from one task to another takes time. And as Jason Fried pointed out in a recent TED Talk, if you have the possibility, allow for the fact that work doesn't always happen at work. even though some of you may work in fancy offices with fancy computers and stuff like that, some of you may feel that you're more productive in a local cafe, or maybe at home, or maybe in a library, or even, I don't know, walking around the street. If your job allows it, please use that option. Do work when at the spot at where you're most productive. If you're a manager, do allow such things to happen. And the last thing, once you start working distraction-free on a spot you like and so on, get into the zone. I think everybody knows the feeling of getting into the zone. It's that feeling that when you're working, suddenly you isolate from the outside world and the work just comes together, and you tend to forget what's the time, you tend to forget what are the problems. You just go with the intuition. The talk is sadly missing, but it was a great connection to that talk. So while in the zone, your intuition helps you with your work. Thank you.